Tens of thousands defy the ban and march in Moscow. Tales of massacres from Iraqis fleeing into U.S.-occupied territory, and potentially fatal flaws in breast cancer examinations. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. Soviet President Gorbachev called out troops and police today to keep demonstrators demanding his resignation away from the Kremlin. The hardline tactic may have backfired, with Gorbachev handing his chief rival a political victory. Anthony Mason reports.
Mikhail Gorbachev sealed off central Moscow today like he was preparing to face an invasion. Tens of thousands of soldiers and police swept into the city with steel helmets, riot shields, on horseback, all to enforce his ban on public demonstrations. Red Square, closed off, looked like an armed camp, and key roads into the Kremlin were blockaded by columns of trucks and men 4 and 5 deep. It looked, said one Soviet newspaper, like Gorbachev was afraid of his own people. But for all the saber rattling, the enemy didn't scare. In open defiance, the demonstrators still camped, chanting "Communism is fascism" along the way. The huge crowd, which gathered at 2 central meeting points and spilled onto the side streets, was impossible to measure. Easily 100,000, perhaps significantly more. "We are warning you, don't break the law," the police broadcast. But riot police who tried to make their way through were applauded derisively and met with shouts of shame and disgrace. On a side street, an elderly woman trying to get to work was caught in a wave of advancing militia. "I've been living in this city for 60 years, she says, and I've never seen such boorishness." In the Russian parliament this morning, deputies were also stunned by Gorbachev's show of force. The special session had been called so conservatives could challenge Boris Yeltsin's leadership. But the parliament turned on Gorbachev instead, condemning the ban by a vote of almost 2 to 1.
No, it's not very easy to bully, to frighten the masses. And the masses, you know, their position.
For Yeltsin, it was a stunning political victory, the best possible outcome, he called it. Many deputies later joined the demonstration as it moved on into the night.
By early evening, tens of thousands of demonstrators were still crowded along Old Gorky Street. Police made occasional calls for them to disperse, but they never really tried to move them, just to contain the crowd.
Protesters argued with police, but did not challenge them. In this peaceful crowd, Gorbachev's army, his show of strength, looked in the end like a sign of weakness. No wonder Yeltsin supporters were celebrating. Anthony Mason, CBS News, Moscow.
Fire did serious damage to the U.S. Embassy in Moscow today. Flames destroyed the roof and heavily damaged computer files and communications equipment. More than 200 people were evacuated. No one was seriously hurt. Soviet officials say the fire started with a spark from a welder's torch. The U.S. officials say there's no suspicion of foul play. President Bush telephoned General Norman Schwarzkopf today about their public disagreement over how the Gulf War ended. The president told the general, "Don't worry about it." In an interview yesterday, General Schwarzkopf pointed out that he had recommended continuing the war to wipe out Iraq's military and make sure Saddam did not stay in power. Mr. Bush insisted yesterday that the general had agreed with his decision to stop fighting. Today, President Bush said through a spokesman that he supports General Schwarzkopf and is convinced that they're now at least on the same wavelength. Baghdad radio claimed today that Iraqi troops have recaptured a major city from Kurdish rebels. David Martin at the Pentagon is following the Iraqi civil war.